What if Genghis Khan faced Alexander the Great? It's the ultimate battle across time. Imagine for a moment the very fabric of history tearing open. Two of the most brilliant military minds the world has ever known, Genghis Khan, the brutal conqueror of the Mongol steppes, and Alexander the Great, the legendary Macedonian tactician who swept through Persia like wildfires, suddenly face each other across a battlefield. No time period, no geography, no language barrier can stop what's about to unfold. This is no fantasy. This is the ultimate historical what if. And today, we're going deep into the strategies, strengths, weaknesses, and the possible outcomes of the most epic showdown never fought. Genghis Khan versus Alexander the Great. Let's set the scene. To make this battle fair and thrilling, we must remove one crucial barrier: time. Through the lens of speculative history, we unite them in a neutral battlefield. Let's place it in the open plains of Anatolia, vast, semi-arid, perfect for cavalry maneuvers, but with enough hills and forest patches to offer tactical surprises. Both leaders are at the peak of their power. Genghis Khan brings with him the elite core of his Mongol empire. Tens of thousands of disciplined horse archers, heavy cavalry, siege engineers, and a military structure built on deception, speed, and ruthless efficiency. Alexander commands his fearsome Macedonian phalanx, the companion cavalry, elite skirmishers, engineers, and veterans seasoned from years of conquest from Greece to India. Let's begin with Genghis Khan. Born as Temujin on the harsh Mongolian steppes, he forged a fractured tribal society into the most feared war machine of the medieval world. His genius was in mobility and coordination. Mongol horses weren't just mounts. They were engines of war. Each warrior rode with several horses, enabling them to ride for days, move faster than any army before them, and strike before the enemy even knew where they were. Genghis didn't just rely on brute strength. His campaigns were calculated based on intelligence gathering, psychological warfare, and intricate logistics. His battle tactics favored encirclement, feigned retreats, and devastating ambushes. To fight Genghis Khan was to chase a ghost, until that ghost reappeared behind your lines and tore your army apart. Now, turn your eyes to Alexander, the son of Philip II of Macedon. He inherited an army already sharpened into one of the deadliest forces on earth. But what Alexander did with that army defies belief. He never lost a battle. His greatest weapon was the Macedonian phalanxa, wall of long sarissas or pikes, bristling forward like a hedgehog of death. But that was just the anvil. The hammer was his companion cavalry, highly trained, heavily armored horsemen that Alexander personally led into battle, smashing enemy lines at the perfect moment. His success wasn't just martial, it was psychological. He inspired cult-like loyalty. His men crossed deserts and mountains for him. His ability to adapt, improvise, and seize the initiative turned unlikely odds into decisive victories. So how would they match up? Let's talk numbers. Genghis Khan at full power could command upwards of 100,000 troops, most of them mobile cavalry. Speed was his god. His soldiers could ride over 100 kilometers in a day and coordinate complex maneuvers across vast terrain. They carried composite bows that could pierce armor at 200 meters. His engineers could dismantle and transport siege equipment across deserts and mountains. More importantly, he understood how to manipulate terrain and the minds of his enemies. He'd fake retreats, draw forces out, isolate units, and then swarm them. His communications system-mounted couriers relaying messages at lightning speed meant that his armies moved as one organism. No other pre-modern general had ever wielded such a responsive, adaptive force. Alexander's army was smaller, usually around 40,000 at peak. But it was a war machine of terrifying cohesion. Its infantry formed an unbreakable phalanx. While his flanks were guarded by cavalry that could punch through enemy formations, Alexander's brilliance lay in timing. He'd pin an enemy with his infantry, then swing around with cavalry at the precise moment. His siege tactics were revolutionary. At Tyre, he built a kilometer-long causeway into the sea, under heavy fire. His logistics were impeccable. His men were rarely undersupplied. And unlike many ancient commanders, he didn't just rule from the rear. He charged headlong into battle, a gleaming figure of almost mythic fearlessness. So let the battle begin. As dawn breaks on the Anatolian plains, Both armies take position. Alexander arrays his troops in classical formation. Phalanx at the center, archers and light infantry in front, companion cavalry on his right flank, and auxiliary forces guarding the left. His scouts report an eerily quiet enemy. Genghis Khan has not formed a traditional line. Instead, he spreads his forces thin, invisible, out of reach. His horse archers move like smoke, barely detectable until arrows start falling like rain. Alexander advances cautiously. He's faced steppe nomads before the Scythians, but nothing like this. Mongol arrows tear through the front ranks, causing confusion. Alexander knows not to chase, but the enemy is everywhere and nowhere. Then, suddenly, a concentrated cavalry charge slams into his left flank. It's not a full assault, just enough to provoke a response. Alexander sends reinforcements. That's when the trap springs. From behind the hills, a massive wave of Mongol heavy cavalry crashes into his stretched line. His left crumbles. He tries to regroup, riding out with a companion cavalry in a desperate countercharge. Here is where things get close. 8. The companions are unmatched in close-quarters shock combat. When they hit like a sledgehammer. Mongol light cavalry scatters, but not before leading Alexander deeper into enemy territory. That's the second trap. A hail of arrows rains from all sides. Genghis has lured the king himself into a kill box. But Alexander, ever the tactician, feigns confusion and doubles back, carving a path through his pursuers and rallying his center. Now it's a slugfest. Phalanx pushing forward, Mongols circling like wolves. What happens next depends on terrain and stamina. If the battle lasts into the afternoon, Mongol endurance begins to tell. Their horses are fresher, their troops less encumbered. Alexander's phalanx begins to slow. Genghis, observing from a ridge, sends signals. The feigned retreat begins. A massive gap opens in the Mongol line. Alexander sees his chance. He orders a full advance, but it's a deception. The Mongols split and close like a net, encircling the phalanx. Arrow storms return. Macedonian shields block some, but their formation is too rigid. They can't respond dynamically. Yet Alexander doesn't retreat. He organizes a wedge, punches through the weakest line, and escapes encirclement. He's bloodied, but not broken. At this point, the battle becomes a war of attrition. Genghis doesn't need to win in a single day. His style is hit, retreat, return. He can hound an enemy across weeks. But Alexander doesn't give him time. That night, he launches a surprise attack on the Mongol camp, burning supplies and freeing captured soldiers. The Mongols scatter, but not far. They regroup fast. Genghis, infuriated, tightens the noose. Over the next days, he uses terrain to herd Alexander into valleys, then floods them with cavalry from all sides. In the final clash, Alexander leads one last charge. It's heroic. It's brilliant. But it's not enough. The final image, a battered phalanx surrounded, arrows blotting out the sun, and a fallen titan who never surrendered, but whose time had run out. So who wins? On paper, Genghis Khan. His army is larger, faster, more versatile, and built for total warfare. His command structure, based on meritocracy and real-time communication, gave him flexibility unmatched in ancient warfare. He fought across deserts, jungles, rivers, and mountains. His adaptability was supreme. But Alexander had something else. A mind that refused to accept defeat. A leadership style that fused fear and devotion. Had he the time to learn Mongol tactics, to adapt to their speed and deception, perhaps he could turn the tide. His mind, after all, had never been outmatched. In the end, this isn't just a fantasy clash. It's a testament to the brilliance of two men who reshaped the world with fire and blood. One, the sword of the steppe, who carved an empire that reached from Korea to Europe. The other, the thunderbolt of the West, who tore through Persia and stood at the edge of the known world at only 32. If such a battle had ever occurred, history might never have recovered from its shock. But maybe, just maybe, in some alternate universe they fought, and the earth still trembles from the echo. Want more epic alternate history battles like this? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We bring history's greatest minds back to life and pit them in the ultimate tests of strategy and will. Join the war of timelines only here on Vertex of Time. Now tell us in the comments, who would you bet on, the conqueror of the steppes or the king of kings?